pour.
Okay, it's going to be a feisty show today, folks, because Carrie and I are already at it. We very much had a 4-minute.
I don't know what is in his cup, but it's something strong.
We had a 3-minute delay on Facebook getting started, and we were not willing to wait. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Bold. I'm Clay Aiken here with Carrie Sheffield, or whoever is inhabiting her body today, because she's talking nonsense crazy.
Truth. I know the truth can sometimes hurt, but we will give him a strong dose. It's truth in that cup. That's what it is.
That's not what, trust me. That's not what it is. Anyway, welcome to Bold. Make sure you're liking us on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and iTunes, and SoundCloud, and all everywhere. All the things, all the technological advancements that Carrie thinks have ruined this country because they have provided people choice and opportunity and have just been the downgrade of culture in America, right?
No, that is, technology is an agnostic tool. It's what you do with it. Anyway, make sure if you love our show, if you want more of this, which you will, make sure to share the show and share it with your friends, add your comments. We got a packed show. We got a congressman coming on here in a few minutes.
Unless he's watching right now and has decided he wants to run.
No, he'll enjoy the debate, I'm sure. So we're going to go through a couple of headlines.
Okay. We really didn't have any this year. Speaking of culture and the degradation of culture in America and civil, what about our role model of a president, Donald Trump, and his tweets this week, Carrie?
Yep. No, we've got a couple of his tweets. You probably heard about them. Donald Trump says, "I heard poorly rated Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. Then how come low IQ crazy Mika along with Psycho Joe came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me? She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no."
Okay, let's do our rose-colored glasses segment with this, even though we didn't plan on it. What stands out to you as the worst part of that, or the most?
Well,
yeah.
Okay. It's wrong. It's offensive. He crossed the line. It's childish. It's beneath the office of the president. When you have power, there's this thing that you punch, or just in ever. When you're in a
Dick
conflict,
Nixon himself said punch up.
Punch up. Exactly. You don't punch down, you punch up. I mean, you are the most powerful person in the entire world, and you're punching down, and it makes you look bad. That's my take.
Is that what it is? Because he's punching down, it makes him look bad, or is it just the fact
and it's inherently offensive? Of course. It's inherently wrong and offensive what he said. However, I understand why he's doing this because he has an incredibly thin skin, and this was apparent during the campaign.
I was worried you were going to justify it in some way.
No, I'm not justifying it. Although I do think that, and we're going to talk about this later in the show about media bias, where I used to watch Morning Joe a lot. I've been a guest on that show repeatedly, and historically, Morning Joe has done a fairly good job of doing left-right counterpoint. And now the show is not that at all.
But what is it? What is it? I mean, I get offended by networks or any show, and I think sometimes we have a problem with it here. That believes that because you're conservative, you need to toe this line. Because you're Democrat, you need to toe this line. And I think CNN does a really bad job with that, to be honest with you. I mean, Scotty Nell Hughes, I remember watching her on CNN the night that the Grabgate, we'll call it Grabgate. I don't usually call it
Grabgate, that works.
The night that Grabgate happened, and she went on and she was asked to respond to that video. And you could see in her face the pain, knowing that she was required to defend this awful thing that the president had said. And I know on CNN they have and you know too, they have people who are there to support Trump, who are on the right with him. They have people who are on the left. And those people who are moderate really don't survive at CNN anymore because the model at that network and others has been, you've got a job to do, you got to toe your line, you got to stick with it no matter what. I think that what we should respect about Morning Joe is the fact that, yes, Joe Scarborough is a former Republican congressman. He's a conservative, but he's not stuck with his talking points. He said he's acknowledged the fact this president is crazy as hell. This president is doing things that are irresponsible, and he's talking about it. He's not just doing what Republicans in the administration are doing, and even some Republicans in the House and Senate are doing by saying, oh, well, he's new. Bullshit. Is he new to being a human? I don't think. Well, I mean, there's no excuse for what he's done. Oh, he's new is not an excuse. And to get upset with a show because and to say that they're biased because the man who is the Republican on there actually has an independent thought ability.
I have no problem with Joe Scarborough saying whatever he wants. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with the fact that they don't in their guest selection. Look at their guest selection. They never have anybody on who supports the agenda that Republicans, which include the president, but also include congressional Republicans. They never have anybody on from the administration.
Well, first of all, that's because but you also know that's because the people won't go on there. Elise Jordan's on there every morning. She's a Republican.
Yeah, but she won't defend what's happening.
But why? But that's infuriating. Why would you be upset with someone who won't defend a tweet like that?
No, I'm not talking about defending a tweet. I'm talking about the fact that people are getting distracted by his tweets. I think that people are so obsessed with his tweets. We're going to talk about this later in the show.
What's the number one story on this show today? The number one story on the show today. It is the number one story right now. And I didn't choose it to be the number one story. You did. You acknowledged that it is.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is I think that the media, including Morning Joe and most other places, are not looking at other things that are happening that are very substantive. For example,
because the president can't put down his Twitter account. If he tweeted a lot of things yesterday that you would argue would be substantive, but he does this to himself. It's not. I mean, if he had chosen not to insult Mika Brzezinski and insult Joe Scarborough and act like a middle schooler, then okay. Then we wouldn't be talking about it. You can't blame the media for talking about the things that everyone's talking about. If they had ignored that, then they would look just as foolish. It's not their fault.
It is their fault in the sense that, like I said, there has been no balance. There is, like I said, when you watch the show. So here's the difference. Fox and Friends has no balance. But you know what? They don't even pretend. They finally got away or got rid of Fair and Balanced, which I think is finally acknowledging the fact that Fox is not fair and balanced. But the thing about NBC, can I finish? NBC likes to say that they are balanced. And they
they don't. No, they don't.
Yes,
NBC, not MSNBC. NBC does, but MSNBC does not. They're different networks. They use the resources of NBC News, but MSNBC is its own network. You don't see Rachel Maddow doing stories on Lester Holt
The legacy of Morning Joe was supposed to be left-right balance. That's why we called ourselves Morning Joe for Millennials. But you know what? Morning Joe, and the supreme hypocrisy of Morning Joe was that they helped create President Trump. They were not critical. Like, it was like this, speaking of possessing body, like Joe Scarborough's body during the primary was so possessed with being pro-Trump. And then it was like a switch. There was like zero balance.
I don't think he was possessed with being pro-Trump. I think he was being himself. Yes. He knows the man. He was friends with the man in the same way that I had a very difficult time critiquing him early on because I know him as a person or know the person who I knew and liked him as a person. I didn't want to be upset with him. I think Joe Scarborough felt the same way. He's being real. God forbid someone actually be real and give their own opinion. And his opinion was, at the time, he's a nice guy. I know him as a person. And now he realizes, okay, wait a second. You're absolutely crazy. We're gonna have to wrap here in a second because we got to go.
We got to bring in the congressman
who is probably